This is Carter McKinney here at Rich Mar Florist with the Entrepreneurs Club podcast, episode 8. So we're really excited to have Jonathan on the podcast today. So I'm just going to have Jonathan, please introduce yourself to the people and tell them a little bit about what Rich Mar is all about.
Well, thanks for having me, Carter. Rich Mar Florist is celebrating its 70th year, which is, just kind of crazy to think. It's 7 decades, four different family generations involved in it. I'm at the helm now. I've been involved in the company since '03, since I graduated college. My wife is right beside me, and my dad is beside me, just like all the father and son connections that we've had. If there's going to be a 5th generation, it's going to be father and daughter for the first time. So I don't know how it's going to go. I'm sure she's going to watch this. But she's actually starting to show some interest in it, and so we'll see what happens. It's been a crazy ride for this company. We started this company in the basement of a townhouse, and now we do events all throughout the country. We're connected with major universities, athletic teams, athletes, large-scale events. So it's definitely been a cool ride for me. I wish my grandfather was still here to kind of see all the things that we're doing. But it's an exciting time at Rich Mar Florist for sure.
Absolutely, yes. Thank you for making the time and being here on the Entrepreneurs Club podcast. So a little bit of background. So we have people that are visionaries that have not started their business yet, people that are in the infancy of their business, and then I'm sure that there's other people like yourself where you're a part of a larger organization doing work all over the place. So let's get right into what has it been like working with your dad and like coming up in the family business. All you know is this company and the family business, so a small business. So what has that been like?
It's definitely been an interesting ride. I think when I was about 13 years old, I was summoned to go to work. So, and I didn't start with the glamorous jobs of working with celebrities or athletes or anything like that. I started sweeping the floors. I probably chopped up the floral oasis a little too much and got in a little bit of trouble every now and then. But I watched my dad, and I watched the thing I learned the most from my father, and the thing that all entrepreneurs have to do is learn from people that are examples. So my father is my hero by any means whatsoever. He's the simplest guy to follow because he just gets in and does what he has to do every single day. So I learned from watching him all these years, maybe not started out so much as watching but having fun at work, from just from the ground all the way up. So for me, it's if I give advice to any entrepreneur or businessman or young person kind of starting out, or college student, college athlete, it's like learn how to start from the bottom so that you can work your way up to the top, so you appreciate the ride when you get there.
Absolutely. I've heard that so much about, through the trades or apprenticeship and starting at an entry-level job before you rise to a manager or a potential ownership position. So that's 100% correct. So what has it been like working with everything from weddings to sports teams? Can you talk about where a floral company comes into play with sports and, how that started? Maybe your first memory of being a part of a sporting event, and now you're, sponsoring a race team and multiple large sporting events. So and even name, image, and likeness for college athletes.
Yeah, it's definitely been interesting. I mean, I have always been passionate about sports my entire life. So, I grew up a sports fan. I love many teams. I've loved many players over the years. So actually getting to know some of these people personally is really cool. Like, my dad didn't do all this fun stuff. Like, these things just kind of like fell into our lap because we went out and just did something different. I've always wanted to be different than everybody else. I never really cared what people thought I was doing. So a lot of times you talk to people about, what you do for a living and, the successes and achievements. So like, well, what does flowers have to do with athletics? Like, why would teams need this, or why would they need that? But like, what people don't realize is you go to, a large scale event, or you even go to like a Phantoms game or an Iron Pigs game, like you want the luxury of that experience. So if you're just getting a ticket in the stands versus, maybe an experience in a box, or maybe a suite, something like that, there's more of an upgraded experience, and that's where flowers really come in. Flowers add to that experience. Teams want their customers or their fans to come in and have the ultimate experience. They want them to be, wow, look at that flower arrangement there. Like, I have a great view of the team. I have a great view of the race. It all just kind of goes together in building on people's experiences. And it's just, not something that people always associate flowers with athletics, but it's there. And when we did the U.S. Open in 2009, my dad and I and my cousin, we were right on the green when the girl from South Korea won the tournament. We took her flowers to her for winning. So people just don't think about that. If there's a race, sometimes we are able to do wreaths, depending on how sponsors or how promoters are. But there's flower wreaths for winners, and I just think that people just don't always associate it with it because maybe they've never had that kind of experience, at a game or at a race. But it is there because they want you to have the best experience overall possible, and it's nice to be a small part of that.
Absolutely. That sounds like a big part. Everything from even commencement ceremonies for colleges and stuff like that. I've always loved seeing that, attending graduations and things like that. I guess being a marketing guy, I'm big into always events and celebrations similar to your field. So, it's been great to see some of your work with universities like Villanova, the sporting teams. So on the opposite side, well, not opposite, but a little different, the wedding side of the business.
Yeah.
What has it been like being a part of some larger weddings? I think you guys have been even featured in a wedding in some larger publications too, correct?
Yeah, friends of mine were just featured in Vogue for their wedding New Year's Eve last year, not this past New Year's Eve, but the New Year's Eve before. We've been, in Lehigh Valley Style. We've been in many magazines over the years. I like creating that experience for brides. I want them to come in. I want them to have a unique experience. The great part is that they sit and they meet with me. So they're meeting with one of the owners of the company. They're meeting with somebody who's very invested in their day. So being able to be a huge part of their day for some clients, even if we're a small part of the day, if somebody's having a smaller wedding, well, what do people look back on in photos? Flowers are almost in every photo of a couple. Look at your mom and dad's pictures, look at your siblings, look at your aunts, look at your grandparents. There's always flowers in them. So flowers are a huge part of that person's day. So when a customer comes to us and they want us to do their wedding flowers, we're honored to do that. We want to give them the best experience that they can possibly have because we want them to look at that photo on the wall forever and be able to think I went to Rich Mar Florist for that, and they were awesome. Because not only do we want them to come to their wedding, but when it's their anniversary, when there's happy occasions, when there's sad occasions, whatever the occasion is, we don't want them to go anywhere else. We want them to come back.
Absolutely. So maybe for the answer this question the best way you can, but for the person that is a solopreneur or someone that's first generation entrepreneur, how could you take what you've learned from generational business and impart it onto them in some words of wisdom and some of that structure that they could aspire to build over time?
I think it's a really simple formula, right? It all gets back to what I was saying about watching my dad. It all gets back to hard work. If you're passionate enough about something, you will get up every day and you will do it. The gentleman who owns Jersey Mike's credits all of his success by just outworking the competition. He's like, I didn't invent the sandwich. I didn't do anything. We didn't invent flowers. In a sense, everybody gets flowers from the same parts of the world. So it's not like, I have something different than everybody else does. I think people buy you is really what ends up happening. They buy your brand, they buy your family. For whatever reason, you appeal to that person, whether it's some kind of involvement you have in the community. Maybe it's a family connection, maybe it's a connection through, athletics, or maybe it's just a connection through church, whatever it is, a connection through another friend. They just buy into what you're doing. So for young people just starting out, it's a long way to go. This took me 20 plus years to get to this point. I wish I would have got to this point in life faster, but this is how long it took me. Everybody learns at a different rate, so this is the rate that I learned at. But the key thing is just keep pushing, attack life, be aggressive in things, and do your best. You have to get up each day and do your absolute best. You put your heart into your business, you're going to succeed. Bet on yourself. Within reason, bet on yourself, but you have to do that. You have to believe that you can achieve the goal, and you can do it. And then once you start achieving simple goals, then you start going for big goals. And then when you start getting those big goals, you realize like, okay, like I've turned the page now, like I've made it, and now what's my next big goal?
Absolutely, I love that. So, doing some research on you guys, we were talking off camera. It sounds like the Women's U.S. Open that you were referencing earlier was like the really big turning point, going from a household name in the Lehigh Valley to becoming a sports identified florist, as well as, you know, more of a regional or larger scale company. So can you expand on that? How was that working with such a huge brand like the U.S. Open, and even what transpired after, and you could talk about the other sporting affiliations.
Yeah, so I mean, I was 5 years full time. So I started working in that event in '08, and it was actually a friend of ours that got us in front of the people who were running the U.S. Open. And you know, at the time, we had been around many years at that point, but I don't think that we were at the peak, even locally, that we were at now. That event, those people, Mimi Griffin and her company, believing in us to pull off you know, an amazing event, and to be able, like we were saying, just to accent these areas where people have spent a lot of money, or entertaining clients, or entertaining other athletes or entertainers, whatever it is, giving them a upgraded experience. She trusted us to pull that off, and we nailed it. You know, it was nerve-wracking, but I feel like my college education prepared me for that. I knew exactly what to do when I had to get in front of somebody. It was my first opportunity to really ever get in front of a really big client. So I wasn't booking weddings at the time. You know, I was answering the phones. I was starting to build relationships with clients, but I had never actually sat face to face with somebody. I wasn't nervous. I was like, I'm just going to give this my best. I had a nice portfolio with her. There wasn't like social media, so you couldn't just pull out your phone back then and say like, hey, here's what I've done other places. It was like, no, we had a photographer, a friend of ours, come in, take some pictures. We had a nice portfolio in front of him. Like, we were ready. And after it was all said and done, she pulled me aside and she said, you know, you gave me such a great presentation. You absolutely blew me away. Don't let me down. And, you know, of course, I didn't let her down, and I remained friends with her for many years after that event. But I think that showed not only everybody in the Valley what we were capable of doing, but I think it also showed me, okay, now I can go out and do this. What else can I do?
The possibilities are endless. Yes. So for an event like that, what did your job actually look like? So you were in charge of maybe floral arrangements for sponsors, or you know, winners of the Open, and things like that. What did that look like more specifically?
Yeah, we had flowers like everywhere there was upgraded seating or tenting or sponsorship areas. We even had to turn the men's locker room into a ladies' locker room. So the U.S. Open put wooden display over top of the men's urinals, and we had to put flowers over that. So we had flowers in the locker room. We had flowers we had flowers around the trophy every day. And then every day we were on site. So just like when I do some other events that we'll probably talk about at some point here, we're on site there. So if anything goes wrong, client isn't happy, we're right there. I mean, I've never, in all the events I've done, you know, knock on wood, you never had an issue, you know, day of with anything, but we maintenance them at night when people are away. Something has to be refreshed, we re-water those items. It was just a neat experience to be able to hand the winner flowers, and just to be able to be on the green. It's something that people can't even like grasp, or something that people are like, wow, you know, this is amazing. Like, you know, imagine handing like, you know, Tiger Woods flowers when he wins. You know, like you can't even, as a regular person, you can't even picture that.
Wonderful, yes. So another thing that I saw online about you guys is that a big turning point similar to this event was working at high scale events, and the fact that access could be limited at certain times, timelines and stuff like that. So what is working at a high level like, and how can you share that experience with our viewership? Like, even I believe you were on the stage for Nelly for Music Fest, correct?
Yeah, I was.
I know we didn't
and
talk
Luda.
about that.
And Luda, yeah.
Okay, Ludacris.
Yeah.
So what is all this stuff like, and working at a high level on clients and sponsoring these events and things like that?
Yeah, you know, So we'll start with the big events. A lot of planning goes into it. There's months of planning that will go into it. We will talk about budgets, we'll talk about colors, we'll talk about sizing, overall design, what are we going for. So there is a lot of planning that leads up to it. Then you got to create everything. So if you sell 700 arrangements for something, now you got to stand there and make them. I am really blessed to be around a great team. We have a great team that will follow me to wherever they have to go. They're like, hey, we have to go to California. Hey, somebody has to go with me to Nashville, Tennessee. Somebody has to go to Dover. Somebody has to go to Pittsburgh. Somebody has to go to North Carolina. Whatever. I'm very blessed that my family and my employees will do whatever I ask of them. So, we sell the event, we create the event. Now we got to set it up. Which is it's difficult. You have steps, you have elevators, like not everything, it's not like every suite is right here. Well, there's suites on the 5th level, there's suites on the 1st floor. There's, by the way, all the way on the other side of the track, there's hospitality. So, the day of install can be, very nerve-wracking. The more years I've done it, it's not so bad. But if you're on a golf course, you can't drive on the green, you can't drive in the fairway. Like somebody's gonna have to play a ball out of there, so you can't do that.
The etiquette.
Yeah, the racetrack might be live, so you obviously can't cross the track. You may have to go all the way around that 3-mile track to get to the other side. So there's some patience that's involved in it. Then following the execution setup is the maintenance of it, making sure the client's happy with it, and making sure that the product stays nice and fresh, or this needs to be replaced, that needs to be replaced. We replace very few items, but it's all about the attention to detail on that. So the fun stuff, like going out and sponsoring Nelly, having players send you their jerseys, I think it's just so cool. Like I love when an athlete or a driver is willing to give me their jersey, or willing to give me their suit or their helmet, or whatever it is after the race. It's a lasting moment for me because the driver drove the race or the athlete played the game. I didn't. So the only thing that I have left afterward is maybe a photo and these really cool items. So I've been fortunate that I have helmets and suits from the Indy 500. I have jerseys from Division I athletes, top 5 teams, Duke, Texas A&M, you name it. I've swapped jerseys with a couple people that wanted our crew shirts. Andre Williams, local celebrity, great human being, probably better human being than athlete. He gave me his jersey as well too, and to hear the story behind it, I think is amazing. Or being able to stand on stage and welcome Nelly, welcome Ludacris. My personal favorite was Poison. Got to welcome Bret Michaels to the Lehigh Valley and then take a picture with him beforehand. I don't know, it's sometimes it's surreal. I always make sure that I take a moment and just breathe and just take in the experience, because we never know when things are going to happen again. We don't know what's going to happen to our health. We don't know what's going to happen in the world. So it's take that couple seconds on the track, in the stands, in the suite, on stage, wherever it's going to be. Just take that couple seconds to really take that appreciation, kind of thank God, and just kind of just breathe for a minute and just take in that success.
Absolutely. Making space to be present. And that's something that in my career, I am focused on capturing the moment for the client and for the community and for things like that, but I also have to be present. So that's definitely major. So in terms of what's next for Rich Mar Florist, what comes to mind, things that you're able to share?
Sky's really the limit. After spending the last 3 years in California for the Breeders' Cup, which is the largest horse race in the world, biggest purse in the world. Horses come from all over the world: Japan, Ireland, Germany, UK, United States. I mean, it's incredible to watch it all kind of just come through. We'd like to work with a few more universities. There's some universities now that have started to see what we're doing in some places. I'd like to someday do flowers for the Indy 500. I think that would be pretty cool, and we're working our way, to that. Whatever opportunity comes, I'm ready for it. I feel like I've put the groundwork in at all these places to get to that point. So whatever the next opportunity is, a bowl game I think would be really, really cool to do. Daytona 500 would be pretty cool to do at some point. That might be hard with Valentine's Day, depending on when it falls. But I think there is really no limitation. There's an IndyCar race coming up in Washington D.C. that I'm starting to talk to people on. Like for the 250th of America. I think that would be so cool to be involved in something like that as well too. So, and on top of just keep on servicing everybody in the community. Do what we do normally. It's great to do all of these things outside the community for celebrities and concerts and all this stuff. But this is my community. This is my home. I interact with people. I've had customers since I was in high school, helping my dad to, now with gray hair. So I like that. I like interacting with people. I like bringing in new clients, and I like maintaining, clients that we've worked with for years.
Absolutely. Yes. So for the people that might not know Rich Mar Florist, they might not be getting married or being a part of a huge event, how can someone get involved? Like maybe following you guys on social media, keeping up to date with your journey, maybe even working with you guys. What is something that the viewer can look out for to interact with Rich Mar and you?
Yeah, I mean, you can always follow our story on social media. Like everybody's like, where are you going to pop up next is always what I get. And I don't really think about it that way. Like, for me, this is my life. So my life and my business are kind of morphed into one. I think anybody you ask that's successful, from, simple owner to Mark Cuban, like you always see Mark at all this stuff. So it's his life. Like, this is what successful people do. It's not just business and I go home and I turn it off. No, that's not what it is. So our journey is definitely unique. Like there isn't too many florists out in the country doing all the things that we're doing across the country. But you don't need to have a big event to get flowers from us. You can treat your partner to flowers anytime. Valentine's Day, Mother's Day. Moms love flowers. Your grandmom. There might be somebody in your life that is a mother figure to you. Why would they love to have flowers? You don't need an occasion for flowers. It doesn't have to be anything grand. People love getting flowers because flowers remind us of two things. They're beautiful artwork. We can see them, we can smell them, but they also remind us about the delicateness of life because they don't last forever. So it allows us to live. Flowers allow you to live in that moment. And they're memorable. People, remember their flowers for their weddings. Why? Because it only lasts so long. So it's great to share flowers with people. People love getting flowers. Men love getting flowers. Women love getting flowers. Children, grown adults. You take flowers to somebody's house when they're not expecting it. The smile on their face is just incredible. It's very uplifting to people. And again, because it's all about that moment. And that's the experience that we want to deliver to a client.
Beautiful, yes. So where can people find you guys, and what last message do you have for the Entrepreneurs Club podcast? So
I will say that you can find us on Instagram, you can find us on Facebook. It's all at X, at Rich Mar Florist. We have two retail locations in Lehigh Valley. You can follow our adventures, on richmarflorist.com. You're looking for a wedding, there's a beautiful gallery there. There's pictures of all the great things that we do throughout the area, all the partnerships that we're involved in, what we're doing in the community as well too, locally and outside, in different communities that we're embedded in. My message for young people and young entrepreneurs is to keep going. Like, you can't stop. Like, once you start, you need to go. Greg Norman said it best, attack life. That's what you have to do. And I think that's what's lost in a younger generation of people as I get older now and as my grays come up. I wasn't wired that way. It wasn't like, well, we just went home. No, we went home when it was done. And to be successful, you have to be willing to balance life and sacrifice things to be successful. There's a lot of sacrifices that you need to make along the way if you want to be successful and sustain success, because just because you make it doesn't mean you're going to stay there forever. We all know that. So I think sometimes it's harder to sustain success than it is to get there. But you have to bet on yourself. You have to believe in yourself that you can pull these things off. Be passionate, hardworking. It's not a hard formula. Like, there isn't something you can go and say, well, let me ask Gemini or let me plug in a spreadsheet. There's no answer for it. No, it's just hardworking. Get into work, do what you got to do, be punctual, be professional, be yourself.
Beautiful. All right, guys. This wraps up our episode with John and Rich Mar Florist. It has been a great episode. This is a very unique episode because this is a family-owned business for generations. The more that I work and live here in this Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, I'm finding these generational businesses that I never knew existed. So this is great. Thank you so much for making the time and space to talk. And we're signing off. Carter McKinney of the Entrepreneurs Club podcast. There you go. How it going, guys?